All right, so you've been digging into the UK construction industry, and, well, frankly, it feels like someone hit the panic button over there.
Yeah.
Collapses, cost overruns, massive projects just dead in the water. Where do we even begin?
It's a real mess, isn't it?
Yeah,
And sadly, the dominoes are still falling.
yeah.
Take the Buckingham Group collapse, that 300 million supply chain debt. That's not, rounding error. That's a hammer blow to tons of these smaller businesses.
Okay, see, this is where I get tripped up. Like 300 million, that's a number I can't even fathom.
Yeah.
Break that down for me. What does that look like on the ground for these smaller players?
Imagine, like a small family-run plumbing supplier.
You're right.
They've poured their heart and soul into this business, maybe even inherited it.
Sure.
They delivered on time, met every requirement, or, on a Buckingham project, and now they're staring down the barrel of tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of pounds owed.
Mm.
Money they were planning on using to make payroll or invest in new equipment or just, to keep the lights on.
Right. And from what I'm reading, it sounds like those administrators, Grant Thornton, aren't exactly giving anyone a lot of hope when it comes to getting any of that money back.
No, you're right. Administrators come in, and essentially their job is to pick through the wreckage and see if anything can be salvaged at all.
Right.
And right now, with administration fees alone already topping £5 million, it's looking more and more likely that those suppliers, those subcontractors, they're going to be left holding the bag.
So not only are these businesses grappling with the initial blow of not getting paid for work they already did,
Right.
but now you're telling me they also have to watch these administration fees pile up, which is basically eating away at what little scraps might have been left over for them anyway.
Exactly. And it creates this awful ripple effect because it's not even just about the immediate debts. It's about the contracts that are now lost, the projects that are halted, the inability of these businesses to then pay their suppliers down the line.
Right.
We're talking about potentially forcing healthy, totally viable businesses into bankruptcy because they had the bad luck of working with a firm that went under.
And if we thought Buckingham Group was bad, then the news coming out of ISG is like throwing fuel on the fire, right?
Absolutely. ISG is a huge player in this industry. And the fact that their administrators are already saying, like, straight up, there's probably no money for creditors, that's a big
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
This isn't some, isolated incident. This speaks to some potentially much larger issues in the industry as a whole.
And this is where it stops being about just numbers and spreadsheets, right? And it really starts to hit home.
Yeah.
You mentioned the human impact earlier, but let's really, drive that point home for our listener.
Okay, so imagine this. You're a skilled electrician. You've been contracted on an ISG project for months, putting in long hours,
Hmm.
probably missing time with your family to, hit deadlines.
Yeah.
Then, bam, project stops. You're out of work, and the wages you rightfully earned, gone.
Wow.
That's the reality for a lot of these construction workers right now, and it's really tough.
It really makes you wonder, how does this even happen? Are these collapses just a case of bad luck? Or are we talking about like mismanagement? Or are there even bigger economic things at play here?
That's the million-pound question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's no easy answer.
Hmm.
The UK construction industry has always had these razor-thin margins, but then you add in stuff like Brexit, all the global supply chain issues, material costs going through the roof.
It's like they're trying to build a house of cards in a windstorm.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And then there's the elephant in the room, interest rates.
Oh, yeah.
Construction, that industry, it relies so much on borrowing money, and these rate hikes, well, they're putting a real strain on even the most established firms out there.
So we've got this like perfect storm brewing here. The economy's shrinking, costs are exploding, and nobody knows what's coming next.
Right.
It's no wonder we're seeing these big companies starting to stumble.
And as we're going to talk about in our next deep dive on Vistry, even those who look like they're weathering the storm, they're not immune to making huge mistakes.
Okay.
And those mistakes, they always have consequences.
So you're saying even the biggest companies aren't safe. Vistry, these guys are like the UK house building company. They announced they're off by 115 million on 9 projects.
Yeah.
Come on, are you serious? How is that even possible?
I know, it's crazy, right? It sounds like, one of those movies about construction gone wrong, haha.
Yeah.
But honestly, this Vistry thing, it just shows that even with all the fancy spreadsheets and algorithms we have these days,
Right.
human error or maybe even some deeper flaws in the way they estimate costs, that can still really mess things up.
So it's not just like forgetting to carry the one here.
No.
We're talking major miscalculation with some pretty big consequences, I'm guessing.
Oh, for sure. First of all, this is a huge hit to Vistry's bottom line. Think profit warnings, share prices in free fall. Oh, yeah. Never a good look for a company that wants investors to trust them.
Of course not. But it's not just about the money, right?
Yeah.
What does this mean for projects themselves?
Yeah.
And more importantly, for the people who are depending on these projects?
That's the real problem here. 115 million shortfall. Yeah. That's not just a number in a spreadsheet.
Right.
That's delays, redesigns, maybe even projects getting completely scrapped. Imagine you're a young family. You've put everything you have into a new Vistry home.
Right.
And then suddenly you hear, sorry, but, unforeseen circumstances.
Which is probably code for, we messed up the math.
Pretty much.
And, we were just talking about transparency and accountability, and this Vistry thing just feels like a big flashing sign saying, hey, maybe we haven't quite figured that out.
Right. It makes you wonder if a company like Vistry, with all their resources and experience, if they can make a mistake this big, then what about everyone else?
It's kind of scary when you think about it. But before we get too deep into this construction chaos, let's talk about the government's role in all of this. They've been doing some interesting things on the infrastructure side, haven't they?
They have. And it's not even just about, saying yes or no to projects. It's about setting the tone, the priorities for the whole industry. And right now, honestly, nobody seems to know what's going on.
Yeah, like with that Lower Thames Crossing project, that thing's been stuck in limbo for forever. And now, just when it looked like things were finally moving forward, new government comes in, slams on the brekes again. What's going on here? Is this normal, or are they trying to tell us something?
It's definitely strange. They say they need more time to, review the project, especially after that spending review. And, I mean, it is a $9 billion project. You want to be sure, right?
There's always a but.
Exactly. This government, they've already canceled the Stonehenge Tunnel and the Arundel Bypass.
Yeah.
Both huge projects,
Yeah.
big money involved.
Right.
So it makes you wonder, are they just being careful with money, or is there something else going on?
Are they saying, hey, maybe these mega projects aren't such a good idea after all?
Possibly. Remember, they're all about environmental stuff, saving money, rethinking how we do these big infrastructure projects.
So when they say more time for review, what they could really mean is, hold on, we might not even want to build this thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's like they're sending mixed messages about all this, we need to invest in infrastructure, but also, wait, not so fast, let's rethink this whole building thing.
Yeah, and that uncertainty, that lack of clear direction, that can be really tough on the construction industry.
Right.
I mean, these businesses, they need to plan for the long term. They need to know what's actually getting built so they can get the resources, hire the right people, and just be ready to go.
So it's not even just about the Lower Thames Crossing anymore. It's
Right.
about what this whole thing and this decision, or I guess lack of a decision, what that says to the whole industry.
Exactly.
Talk about shaking confidence.
Yeah, and this is where things get really interesting because you can't separate these government decisions from everything else we've been talking about.
Right.
The financial problems, the projects going over budget, the fact that there aren't enough skilled workers. It all adds to this feeling of can this industry even survive the way it is now?
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate for a sec.
Okay.
Maybe this whole shakeup, this moment of truth, maybe it's what UK construction needs.
Maybe.
A chance to hit reset, fix the things that are broken, and come out stronger.
It's possible. You're right. There's definitely an opportunity here. We've been talking about transparency, accountability, being open to new ideas. These aren't just, empty words.
Right.
These are the things you need to build an industry that's strong and ready for the future.
So, if we were to actually grab our tools and start rebuilding, what would that even look like? Where would we start?
Well, I think the biggest thing is focusing on quality over quantity.
Okay.
For too long, it's been all about bigger, faster, cheaper.
Yeah.
And we see how that turns out.
Yeah.
Cutting corners, bad practices, and things just not lasting.
It's like building a house to last for generations versus one that's, held together with duct tape and hope.
Exactly. And we have to talk about how projects actually get started, the procurement process.
Okay.
The way it works now, everyone's trying to offer the lowest price, which means contractors have to cut corners and sacrifice quality just to stay in business.
Which is how we end up with those crazy headlines about buildings collapsing, projects getting delayed, and, 115 Miller accounting errors.
Exactly.
Huh.
So we need to rethink the whole system, support companies that use ethical materials, and create a system that actually rewards quality and sustainability.
Right.
Those are all key things.
It's like we need to completely change how we think about construction from the very beginning.
Totally. And a big part of that is getting young people excited about construction again.
Yeah.
Because, let's be real, the industry doesn't have the best image. Young people today, they want careers with purpose, where they can be innovative and make a difference. We need to show them that construction can be that kind of career.
It's not just about, laying bricks or pouring concrete. It's about shaping the entire world around us, right?
Exactly.
Building a better, more sustainable future for everyone. It's about more than just buildings. It's about building careers, building communities.
That's a great way to put it.
So it sounds like, yeah, the UK construction industry's got some serious problems, but it's not hopeless. There's a chance here to learn from what's happened, try new technologies, and build a stronger, more sustainable, and honestly, a more ethical future for everyone in the industry.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And that journey, just like any big construction project, it starts with a strong foundation. Knowledge, working together, and everyone agreeing on what a better future looks like.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening. Thanks for taking us through all of this. It's clear that what happens next with UK construction is anyone's guess, but it's going to be fascinating to see what happens.
You got it. Always happy to chat about this stuff.
And to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has given you a new way of looking at the world around you. Because even when things seem chaotic and uncertain, there's always a chance to build something better.